Welcome to More Than Legal, the show where we go behind the scenes to uncover the fine print of power, purpose, and profit. I'm your host, attorney Danielle Laughlin. After almost 2 decades in the trenches of courtrooms and boardrooms, I have learned that every move leaves a mark and every deal tells a story. What will we uncover today? Let's find out. Hey, real quick, before we dive into the episode, remember, nothing you hear on this podcast is intended to be legal, financial, or tax advice. I invite you to contact any of the guests you hear by looking in the show notes for their contact information, or if you'd like to reach out to me, you can find my contact information at daniellelaughlin.com. All right, now let's get into it. Hey, welcome to More Than Legal. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so excited to introduce you to a friend of mine and somebody I think who's going to have a lot of insights for you as a fellow entrepreneur and a professional who also works with and for entrepreneurs and small businesses. Patrick Currie. Patrick, I'm going to just let you talk about yourself in just a second, but I want to say before you do that, you and I met many years ago, and one of the things that I think we both realized about each other pretty quickly was, hey, another professional that knows how to talk like a real human. Wow, that's awesome. And then the second thing, also, they like to have fun and joke around. Do you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. The other thing I really enjoyed about our conversations is you were so full of ideas. And I remember we talked about probably 6 or 7 different business ideas, mine or yours that were floating around in our heads. And that was so much fun.
So much fun. And it's kind of rare in our industries, right? Because you're in the financial industry. Why don't you tell folks about yourself and kind of how you got to where you are? What do you do for your clients? And like, where's your passion?
Okay. Yeah. So I started off not really knowing what I wanted to do in life. I didn't have a lot of help through high school with people guiding or coaching me. I had a full scholarship to a university and I lost it because I didn't go to class. And there was just nobody around to say, hey, this is a good idea. You need to take advantage of it. So in college, I started in computer engineering. And then I switched to music education, and then I switched to psychology, and I finally finished in accounting. And it took a while for me to get around to the trade, really, or the practice of accounting and what I could do or enjoy with that. And so I think for me, that process was discovery and exploratory, and it's part of my story because that's something that I help people do is like, let's speed up this discovery process. Maybe there's some coaching conversations or, some analyses or things like that we can do to help you further yourself down that road, whatever it is. So I started in accounting. I've never done public. I've never done the big 4. So it was all for me, small business industry. And so that's what I've done. And I've gone in and out of real estate, construction, a lot of philanthropic nonprofit organizations. So managing, big budgets like 150 million and things like that, and learning how to manage that kind of stuff. And right now, my wife and I have been running our own company for 11 years, and we started working together at a nonprofit organization where I was her boss, and we really enjoyed working together. And so through that season, people had come to us with questions like, hey, can you help me with my company? And so we kind of built it one client at a time, and then realized a year or 2 in, like, hey, this really could be a full-time gig. And so we've been working towards that. And now we offer kind of full scale accounting, from bookkeeping to tax to payroll to fractional CFO work. And, we do things for clients where it's just the bookkeeping and monthly reporting. And then other times we're deep in their business and what they're doing and walking alongside them And really our goal and what we love doing is helping people be successful. And so taking away that accounting headache and frustration. Had a conversation with a guy yesterday who was just complaining about asking 7 different people, what does he need to do in his situation, getting 7 different answers, and it just created such a problem. And so having one person that you can go to answer all of these questions, is a way that we serve entrepreneurs and people who are building their dreams.
That is so great. I think, and I've heard this, and I'm interested to hear what you think about it. I think people oftentimes in business, they see finance and legal as cost centers. We're the people that say no, right? The deal killers is what the lawyers get called. I don't know about the finance and accountancy
Oh yeah.
guys, but
Yep.
you know. So, what do you think about that? Do you have I guess where I push back on that idea as a lawyer, although I certainly know a lot of lawyers that do exactly that, But do you, how do you see your role, and do you take that traditional view of always protecting the bottom line, or do you have a different way of looking at things?
Yeah, that I like that question. And I probably align more with you on that as far as like how you fit in with your industry and how I do. And one of the things I noticed early on at CPA luncheons is I was one of the only guys who was dressed a little more casually. And one of the guys who would laugh out loud. So a lot of times they would put jokes up on the screen to start, and all the accountants would, yes, that is funny. And they'd go to the next slide and they would just say, that is also funny. And I stuck out, like a sore thumb. And so that kind of has characterized my career, where I've found that like the majority of accountants are penny pinchers and they say no and they don't like risk. And their goal is to help. I think that's something that's important for people to understand, is like people who are like that aren't trying to kill your dreams. Um, they're they're doing the best that they can with the tools that they have.
Mhm.
What I think I'm able to bring is an open mind and understand that entrepreneurial activities are as creative as composers and artists. And so there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to have to sort through until we get to what works for you. And a lot of times when you're talking about IRS code and, regulatory compliance and things like that, people get nervous when you say creative solutions. But the nice thing is, like, the code's there. And so now it's
Right.
our job to build the case, to work in it, not around it, but just figure out how this can still be complied with and best serve the entrepreneur. So I find myself kind of going against the grain a little bit with that. And some people appreciate that, and some people like the penny pincher accountant style.
That's true. I love that. I mean, I think that you have to find some, for you, obviously, you got to find clients that are values aligned. And for the clients, they need to find professionals that are values aligned as well. And I think too, you hit the nail on the head when you said they're trying to help, right? Like lawyers are the same. Lawyers, I mean, yes, there are some accountants and some lawyers that go into their profession just to make money. Absolutely. But most, I would say the vast majority, are people who go in to help other people, other
Absolutely.
businesses, right? Um, and yeah, maybe they're just more conservative in how they do that. And that's a great fit for certain types of companies and entrepreneurs, and maybe not so great for others. So I love that you have that similar view. We have one of our core values is challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
And it's like that's exactly what I did. And you know what was also interesting about your story, which I did not know, and I really connected with, is the college experience. I also did not have anyone there to tell me what to be doing. Um, and it took me about 5.5 years to figure it all out. I did stick with my major. Well, I started in psych and then very
Nice.
quickly, I very quickly switched to philosophy.
Okay.
And so I stayed in philosophy and ethics and kind of political philosophy and stuff like that. But I would drop a class, or oh, I partied a little too much, so I'm just going to take 3 classes because I got to work too. So if I need to work and party and go to school, then I just really can't take all these classes, you know.
Yes.
So there's nobody saying to me, "Don't do that." My parents didn't go to, traditional college and university. I was the first one, so I didn't know that about your story, but I also experienced the same thing. And I think some people were shocked that I went to law school. Do you think there were people that were shocked that you became an accountant?
I mean, still to this day, people, when I tell them what I do, they're like, there's no way you're in accounting. And actually I am. But I'll say this, the only reason I considered accounting is because um my wife's, not at the time, but we were dating, but her sister was in accounting, and she had gotten her master's in accounting, and she was a really fun person, and she broke that mold for me. And so I realized, like, it really was an epiphany. Accountants can be fun people. And I didn't know that was even possible before. And so that, I really have to give credit to Sarah for being a fun accountant and realizing, like, hey, if you want to be a fun accountant, do it, go for it.
That's awesome. Sarah sounds really cool.
She is wonderful. Actually, she works with us. So I ended up hiring her a few
Amazing.
years ago. Yeah.
Amazing. A true family business. I love that. That's awesome.
It's
So,
nice because I trust her, and when you get
yeah,
people you trust, you keep them close.
it's true. It's true. And
Yeah.
it's hard, I don't think it's so much that people are out there trying to do things that are distrustful or mistrustful, whatever the grammar might be there. But I just think the values alignment, like for me, in the past, I'd say year, I have just become so clear about one thing, which is I want to do business with people who are aligned on values.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I don't know that values is something a lot of people think about, but I believe that it kind of does underpin a lot of what we do in business. Do you guys have any like core values or anything that you run by that you like?
Yeah, we do. I mean, so I'm going through an exercise right now with my business coach where I'm doing my own personal core values, and we had 10 of those. And I have core values and guiding principles, maybe, depending on how you say it. We don't really have a stated mission or anything like that. But the first one is hard work. I think it's important to understand that when we come to the table, um, we're not afraid of difficult things. We're not afraid of hard, complicated processes or situations. We're going to do it. And the second one is investing in people. And so taking a long-term approach to, maybe there's some short-term sacrifice that has to happen to where it's really worth not only ourselves or my team, but also the people we're serving. Like that's our goal, is the people. And then generosity is another one of those pieces where we're not going to nickel and dime. I'm not going to do that to my staff. They're not going to do it to the client. Like, we're coming from a place of, we want to serve you, which means we're probably going to have a loose boundary of how long this call is going to go or something like that. Yeah, I don't know if it's the same in your profession, because you probably bill by the hour, by the minute, or
We
something
try
like that.
not to. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
We do. We try not to. We actually I love that generosity because we have a core value to give back. And it's the
yes,
same idea. And like in a dispute situation, we usually do have to charge by the hour because we can't really anticipate how much effort may be involved.
yep,
We try to get the clients on flat fee, but to get them on flat fee, it requires kind of a longer commitment, and that can be challenging sometimes because I think they can sometimes have a fear of that longer commitment, maybe. And
right.
a lot of our clients are kind of figuring out how to work with lawyers. So it's like they've built a good business, but they've been using lawyers on an ad hoc basis. It's kind of like with what you do, and it's like the clients that just want to send you the books at the end of the year, and then you just complete the tax form. It's like that
Absolutely.
idea. Yeah.
When they want advice throughout the year too, they want to call up and say, "Hey, I'm about to buy a boat or a business or a car, or I just did this thing. How is that going to affect my tax picture?" And of course, it's impossible to send them an invoice for that moment.
Hmm.
And so I usually roll that into their overall price when we do send them
Yeah.
an invoice. Is like, this client I know is going to call me 35 times this year. And so we're going to go ahead
Yeah.
and bill you for that ahead of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
generosity is number 3, and then number 4 is actually willingness to take risk. And
Yes.
I had to put that in there because our goal is to create safety and security for people. But as we work with entrepreneurs, it's impossible to keep them always in a safe space. They have to take risk. And so I that's part of our culture as a team and as, my own family. But then as we work with our clients, it's part of the way that we want to be willing to embrace the risk that, that they're facing on a daily basis.
Amazing. It's so true. That's interesting to me because I feel like sometimes we have that challenge the status quo, which is a kind of a similar idea. Sometimes I feel like our clients are like, we got to rein them back on the risk profile a little bit.
Oh yeah. Like they're taking too much risk,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. No, I understand. And I think, the entrepreneurs we serve are taking risks, and sometimes it makes my team uncomfortable. And
Right.
that's where I have to say, "Hey, it's okay. Like,
It's okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's okay." So,
It's their
yeah,
risk to take,
it is. And if
you
they're going to
know?
be successful, they need people on their team that, maybe we're a little squeamish about it, but we're not going to abandon them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. As long as you're not crossing the line, right?
Well, right.
We
And I think that's where people get a little freaked out when an accountant says you're willing to take risk and things like that. But, um, one client I was working with in the last year had cash flow situations, and he, before meeting with me, took out several big loans. And so in taking him on as a client, there was a risk that I was taking where I knew he had cash flow situations, and he was playing a big game. He's not playing in the tens of thousands of dollars. It was much more
Mhm.
than that. And so, if taking a risk, investing in people was not part of our core values, I wouldn't have helped him. But then he's in a situation where who's going to help him?
Right.
And that's where I'm willing to say, all right, we'll go ahead and take a risk on this client. And I would say we had a 50% success rate with that project. So,
Well, you're an entrepreneur too, right? And
yes.
so, I think part of the value your clients receive is having you experiencing the same issues,
Mhm.
right? You say you didn't work at the Big Four. I remember being in law school and calculating those billable hours and be like, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to bill 2,000 hours. Like, I already had a kid at that point. I'm like, when am I going to see my son? When am I going to
Right.
take vacation? I never saw that as a reality for me. But the other thing I'm going to get to the question because I just want to give a little backstory before I get there. But I went through this imposter syndrome for a long time because I didn't do that big law
Mm.
thing. And I felt like, there are lawyers, of course, that look down on that, but as I'm sure there are accountants that maybe look down on what you do. But now I feel like, wow, I'm way better off than those guys and gals, right? How do you see that? Do you see your path as beneficial?
Yeah, I think so. I I think the imposter syndrome is real. My brother and I talk about that being, it can be reframed into being a rookie,
Yeah.
and you tell yourself, I'm just new. I'm not an imposter, but I'm just new to the game. And so that helps yourself, reframe it a little bit. But yeah, my journey is funny. And I work with CPAs that have taken the traditional route. And like one guy that I has been a good friend and ally, and we've worked on several clients together. The first 2 years out of college, he worked for the Big Four, and he didn't even have a permanent address. I mean, he did at his parents' house, but he didn't pay rent. He didn't have a bedroom. He would sleep on couches in hotels, and because he was on the road so much, and that was his
Wow.
life. And I think the quality of life as you build whatever it is you're building is something that probably should be considered. And if people are
Mhm.
willing to live like that, then, that's great. They should go the traditional route or whatever that journey is. Um, I think my journey is just one of I was trying to figure it out as I went along. Knowing now what I know, I would have definitely done things differently. I am grateful that things have ended up where we are and the way we are and how things are going. Like, I have 4 beautiful children, and I have a happy marriage, and, things like that. And so I wouldn't change it. It's like, would I go back and change something? Like, I don't think I could look back and say this is the one thing. But if I was wiser and I had a coach and a mentor, I'm sure I would have made different decisions along the way.
Yeah. We keep going back to that coach and mentor topic. And I'm trying to think back when I met you at first, whether I had any coaching or mentorship at that time. I'm not sure. Um, but you mentioned a coach. And do you recommend to your clients that they get mentorship and coaching?
I um if there's a word stronger than recommend, I would go with that one. You can't require it of people, but I it is for me it's mandatory. I just think we have blind spots as people. We aren't able, like, if you're really an entrepreneur, that means everything's on the line. It's costing you more than you thought it would. It's taking more time, more money, more relational equity, whatever the resource is. And so, like, your margin ends up being very close to zero. And so, then it's like, it's not only you on this journey, but you have people around you in your life that are also, whether it's your family or your staff or whatever, they're affected by that. And so what I've found with coaches and mentors is, if it's work-life balance, or if it's the timing of making decisions. One of the things my coaches helped me so much on this year is focusing on the right things, which means the
Mm-hmm.
willingness to say no to
Mm-hmm.
wonderful opportunities that come up. And for me, I love opportunities. I love cool things. And so a little shiny thing pops up and I'm like, hey, I could do this also on the side. And that's where having, for me, this coach this year has been great, because keeps me focused, and I'll take all of my ideas, that I think are legitimate, not just silly ones. And we'll talk about them and sort through which ones I need to give my time to. So it costs me money to do that. I pay him a pretty stout fee for him to sit across the Zoom table from me and work this stuff out. But I know I would be wasting my time. I think I can go farther, faster with someone in my corner than if it was just me trying to figure all this out on my own.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think it also takes a level of humility to do that. And so to me, sometimes it's a red flag if I have a client that's an entrepreneur, or, group of founders, and they don't have any other mentorship or
Mm,
coaching. I kind of view that as, oh, okay, I guess you think that you have all these answers, and you don't know what you don't know, right?
mhm. Yeah.
So I absolutely agree with that. And I do think too that I had a productivity coach as well this past year, and she was amazing. A mathematician, So just an incredible mind. I mean, just an
Extremely
incredible
smart.
mind.
Yeah.
Extremely smart. Vida, if you're listening, thank you. Um, but she did. She helped me cut through the noise, and the level of growth personally and professionally that I've experienced since I worked with her has been profound. And I did have other coaches as well. Mindset,
Hmm.
I had like a law firm coach, mindset, all kinds of stuff.
You
What
did
do
a
you,
financial coaching with Profit First, didn't
yeah,
you, for a
profit.
little while?
Yes, I
Yeah,
did.
that was
Yeah,
another one.
I got Profit First certified.
Oh, nice.
Yes. They did one for lawyers. Did you know that?
Profit First for lawyers? No.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Do you
Yeah,
still
and
use it?
so I'd say loosely. I'm not I don't think I've ever taken anything and just said I'm going to do exactly what it says. Like I
Yeah.
don't follow recipes. My husband gets so mad at me.
That's awesome.
Um, he's the recipe follower, he's a software engineer, very, kind of linear, like by the book
Yep.
thinking. Um, which is a good yin yang
Yes.
for us. Is your wife like that?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
she, there's so many times where we have conversations about, are we going to follow the recipe? Maybe not actual baking or something, or
Right.
are we going to go off the wild hair that I've got
Yeah.
that I feel like is a better option? So yeah, we have
Right.
those
Yeah.
conversations all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I did it, and we still kind of follow it a little bit. I mean, I think it's a great first step for especially like people like me that did not come from an accounting background. I
Right.
mean, I had 0% clue about all of that, and so it did help. It did help break it down. Now, more recently, though, do you know Greg Crabtree? Are you familiar with him and his work?
I don't. What's the name of his company?
Well, he's at a firm in Birmingham now, but he's written a couple of books. They're called Simple Numbers and Simple Numbers 2.0. You might love those books.
Okay.
They could potentially be some good resources for you or your clients. But he essentially he goes even like more simplistic than Profit First, and like really just breaks it down to, you know, like labor efficiency and stuff,
Okay.
like helping you kind of think through what your P&L should look like from a very basic level as an entrepreneur. So I've been a big fan of his, and I interviewed him. So we're gonna publish him at some point, I think in the next few weeks. Um, so I'll send you that link when it comes up. But I'm interested to know, like, so you as an accountant, you take really complicated issues, math, you know, most people's eyes glaze over,
Right.
and you have to kind of break it down for your clients so they can understand it. Do you have any frameworks or anything that you use to help them do that?
On a practical level, yeah, we have. I mean, the critical four we use a lot, which is revenue, gross profit, net profit, cash. And so those are going to be, most of what you're going to find in your company that is important to measure will be attached at least to one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a dashboard that populates, with their monthly financials. And then we've got the critical four on the front page, and you've got all the historicals there. And typically with clients, we find, one of my other mentors is named Greg Fi, and he's an enrolled agent. I've worked with him on a lot of different tax situations. Brilliant guy. He talks about the gas pedal of the business. And
Mm.
so even from a tax perspective, and for him, which I'm telling all of his secrets, sorry, Greg, but for him, he has a list of people that are his gas pedal. And when he's ready for new work or new clients, he follows up with these people. And he said, it's funny because it's unpredictable, but it happens every time, where when he follows up with those people, his business grows. And it's not necessarily from those people, but it's just he's found that to be his gas pedal. And so similar with that, With the clients that I work with, there are certain gas pedals. Like, are we trying to drive revenue, or like, we work through other things too, culture problems or team problems or things like that. And so that doesn't have as much of a framework around it. But I would say those critical four are the baseline and where we start.
That's great. That's great. I think too, everybody is always focused on revenue, you know.
Yeah,
That's the vanity metric, right?
it is.
Uh, but what's the most important one, Patrick, in your view?
Um, it's hard to not say cash. Cash is king, I think, in a lot of ways. You can do a lot of good with a lot of cash. And if you don't have it, everyone feels it, And I've seen
Yeah,
businesses that have large swings. And so even if revenue's down, if cash is good, you should be okay. One of the hardest things about people's businesses is the people. And so when we work with people, that net profit number is really important because that means we're controlling their spend. We're
hmm,
controlling, like, there's discipline that they're exercising along the way, because if they're good at bringing it in and their gross profit margin is set, then they just feel comfortable to go blow through some cash. So I'd say, I mean, I don't know. It's probably not for everybody, but cash has to be up there.
yeah, I agree. I think that was a revelation I had because I'll say, like, I think in the beginning, I got advice that I think a lot of my clients get, which is, oh, you got some profit here, so you're going to pay some taxes on it. And you don't want to pay taxes now, do you?
Yeah.
So then what do? You go spend your profit so you don't pay the taxes. And you're shaking your head. So you're not of this belief. I mean, I don't think I expected you to be of that belief, but there are a lot of CPAs and accountants that are of that belief, or at least
Yeah.
that's the advice they give their clients. And so I had received some of that, what I consider to be bad advice. Now, of course, you don't want to pay more in taxes than you should be. And if you have a legitimate expense to make that's going to, you know, benefit your business, right? Then great. Absolutely. But I was just like, oh, I need to spend down some of this cash. So let me go. I'm going to buy a new computer. I'm going to,
Yep.
just like stupid stuff like that.
Absolutely.
T- Tell us about that. Tell us about that idea.
I mean, I would throw my computer through the wall if I could, just to express the frustration that I have around people that are like, "Oh, I don't want to, I don't want to pay 40,000 in tax." It's like, you made $2 million and you're only paying 40,000. This is fine. And the silliness around trying to spend it so you don't have to send, what, 30% usually is about what people are going to pay, maybe
Right.
35% to the government. The way that I try to frame it for people is every dollar has a cost. So when you bring it in, it's going to cost you. So yes, you're going to pay the gross profit, and yes, there's some net profit. But if you think about tax as part of how much that dollar costs you, by the time it's all said and done, if you have 60 cents or 30 cents of that dollar left, whatever your margins are, you still have 30 cents. If you go spend that, you don't have that anymore. And so you can try to save, what, $10,000 in tax by spending $60,000. But
Mm-hmm.
listen to what
Mm-hmm.
you just did, and so for
Mm-hmm.
me, sometimes I've learned that I have to put aside what I think and the way that I think about that to match with the client and what their goals are. So can I align their business with their practice and their goals just to meet, like, maybe they don't want that much money in the bank, and I would do it differently if it was my company, but my job is to serve them. And so if they want to throw it away, that's totally fine.
Absolutely. It's a free country.
And they made the money, it's theirs.
Right. It's theirs. I agree. My husband used to push back on me and say, well, why are we going to, like you just said, why are we going to spend 60 so we can save 10, And I'd be like, because this is what the accountant is saying. Like, what do you know, guy?
Yeah. Maybe he's
And
right
now
every
I'm
now and
like,
then.
yeah, exactly. Now I'm like, you were right, babe. I was wrong about that. But it's part of the entrepreneurial journey, maybe I mean, maybe not for you because you obviously are trained in that area, but for your clients, certainly, right? To kind of learn that at some point.
Yeah, I
What
think
would
it's
you say?
probably, yeah, I was just going to say, I think it probably speaks to some maturity level about entrepreneurship where it's like they might be good at making money, they might be good at running a team, but then they're kind of stuck at now what do you do when you have cash and capital or something like that, you know? And so I think I've seen entrepreneurs not maturity level as a person, but as an entrepreneur, there's like a different maturity level that they're just kind of stuck in the adolescent, from my opinion, right? So I'm not like God on in this or anything, but that's what the way I frame it.
I agree, and I think that's a completely fair way to say it because entrepreneurial maturity has nothing to do with how mature you are as a human.
Yep.
You know,
Right.
you're a dad of four kids. I'm a mom of four kids. I mean, I'm pretty sure we're pretty responsible out there in the, real world or whatever. But
Absolutely.
yeah, you don't know what you don't know. I think too, there's like echo chamber in entrepreneurial land out there. There's like this echo chamber. And if you're not in the right group of people, the right entrepreneurial groups, um, you are going to get sucked into some of that, what I consider to be bad advice, immature advice.
And yeah, there's no end to the bad advice. All the Facebook prophets and the Instagram influencers that have their little cool things. Like, if you want bad advice, it is free and it's easy to find.
Absolutely. I love that. I call it the Insta millionaire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it work? Has somebody actually done that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
I mean, can't you like rent a jet or something? Like you can spend $1,000 and you can like stand in front of this private jet and be like, so easy being me. Let me give you the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I think that goes back to what you're talking about, where you want to work with people that have the value system or, aligned values that you do. I think people that are going to do that are not going to be a good client for me and probably not for
Correct.
you. Yeah.
Absolutely. They probably are not going to call people like us.
No, they wouldn't. Or if we did give them advice, they wouldn't enjoy it.
They'd hate us.
I like that we're
That's
setting up
fine.
this pre-hate already. Like
This pre-hate.
yeah, I'm
Send
sure
all
they
your
hate us.
trolls. Send all your trolls our way. The
Exactly.
YouTube page is going to be blowing up on this one.
Or this is the
I
best way
love
to
it.
find the right clients that really don't go that way. If they hear that, then they
Yeah,
re- they realize hard work pays off. Just do the hard
it
thing.
does. It does. And I think too, hard work is a mindset, not like a physical reality. I think there's
Yes.
like this, you know what I mean? It's like some people think, oh, hard work. What do you mean? I'm working 10, 12-hour days? No, that's not required. But it means you have attention to detail. It means you
Right.
stick through the hard stuff and you don't throw in the towel when things get difficult. Is that how
Yeah.
you like what do you think about hard work? What does that actually mean to you?
So my dad was a hard worker, and he always uh what would be the word? Maybe mourned my work ethic growing up because I was not that. And I would take shortcuts and I would do all kinds of things that he wasn't a big fan of. And so I it was always in the back of my head, but he didn't seem like a guy who matched the dreamer, creative, intuitive vibe that I had. And I had this boss about 10 or 12 years ago named Katie Delp, and she was down in South Atlanta. Um, and she is somebody that I learned what you're talking about from, where the hard work isn't necessarily the 12-hour grind. It's not killing yourself over something that is, but it's the courage to do hard things, make the hard decisions at the right time. And she had a sign on her door that says, you can do hard things. And we would have conversations or situations, and we'd have to, I was the CFO and she was the direct, the CEO. And so we'd have to work through what are we going to do with these people? And sometimes you just point to the sign, like, you can do hard things, like have the
Mhm.
courage to make the right decision now. And when I talk to my team about hard work, that's the way that I talk about it is, hard work can happen in 2 minutes. But we're going to have the courage to do that hard work now.
I love that. Absolutely. We can do hard things.
Yeah.
I say that a lot to my kids.
Yeah. Well, she had to say it to me. I was still so young.
I-
She had to teach me that, but I learned it from her.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I wish I had had somebody that said that to me at some point. You know, I think it's probably one of the reasons I'm a lawyer, right? But I was like, I would fight the bullies, right? So the bullies, they bully me, they bully my siblings, they bully other people, and I'd be the one to be like, "How dare you, bully? You're not going to get away with this."
Yeah.
And so I always kind of had that like bravado. And I have a friend, and he may not ever listen to this. I might just send it to him just so I could be like, "I mentioned you." But he's a lawyer, and his name is Kelsey, and we used to work together. And
Oh,
we had dinner probably a couple of years back, and he said, you used to have this chip on your shoulder. I was like, used to? I thought it was still there. But I think it's like that. I didn't consider that hard work because I, like you, had a hardworking dad that just like was working all the time. My mother was also a very hard worker. And so they both had this really strong work ethic. And in my mind, I always thought of it that way.
right.
No one ever said it to me like your old boss did.
Yeah.
Um, and so that chip, I feel like is kind of just that like courage to be like, hey, this is hard, but like I can do this, and I'm not gonna wimp out or whatever. And I don't think it's always wimpy either. Like you said, sometimes it's like sometimes you just like don't want to do the thing,
Right.
you
Yeah,
know?
that's so common. Are you familiar? Do you follow the Enneagram at all?
Yeah, I'm somewhat.
Do you?
Yeah. What are you?
I'm a 7, wing 8. And so what are you similar?
Yeah, I think so. Or is three like a juxtapose to
It
the
is with
seven,
the
I
8.
think? Or
Well,
with
the
the
3's
eight?
like the achiever. Yeah, they want to
Yeah,
like accomplish and
I
achieve.
think
Yeah.
I'm the three.
Okay.
With like a wing five. If that does that
I mean,
maybe I'm making this up. I don't
no, that's
remember.
fine. I think you can identify with the Enneagram the way you want to, but for me, the wing 7, I mean the type 7 is the core of them are pain averse. And so that's something in my own life that that's where the hard work idea comes from, is like, I'm actually scared of hard work. It hurts. I don't like it. And every time I have to do something that's hard, I have to go through this whole entire process. Like, I've been working for a long time. I've done a lot of really hard things. It doesn't necessarily make it easier when I have to wake up on a Tuesday morning and again do something hard with a
Yeah.
client. And so I've learned different ways of um like doing the hardest thing first in a day is helpful, because then it sets me off on like, all right, that's already done. I'm at a big win. If I don't do that, whatever is on my schedule, if I do the hardest thing first, I'm already winning. And so the rest of my day is like a little bit easier. So I've had to cheat along the way as far as like figuring out how to work around that.
I will say, I now that I'm thinking back, because I've been more into the disc profile
Okay.
recently. There's so many ways to do this thing,
Absolutely.
but um, but yeah, I think it's the achiever in me. But I feel like there's some shadow component to that as well that kind of falls into the trap that you're talking about. Because I definitely can fall into that where it's like there's a book, Eat That Frog, I think,
Oh
and it
yeah. Eat the
do you remember
green
that?
frog
Eat
first.
the green,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you want to do the hard thing first.
Yeah.
I'm not always good at that. I'll be honest. Sometimes it's like you're worn down, man. You're just doing so many hard things all the time.
Well, Yeah, I mean, it doesn't end. You're a mom and an entrepreneur, and advising clients. And, there's so many different ands that go along with that. And so, how do you find inspiration? This is a real question. How do you find inspiration to do those hard things when they come up?
Well, I didn't mention that you had your own podcast before, but it would be a great time to go ahead and plug that since you're now interviewing me. Definitely, we're gonna link that in the show notes for everybody. But how do I do it? I don't know. I think you're a dad. I mean, ultimately, it's like if it was just me, I probably wouldn't. I
Mm,
had a privilege of being a single mom in law school.
mm,
People say, "Oh, that's not a privilege." Oh, yes, it was.
mm.
It was a huge privilege because it made me really get my act together. I had to figure things out and I had to do the really hard stuff that nobody else was doing. Everybody else is still boozing it up like we're in college and partying all the time. And I mean, I hung out and did that with them from time to time. But every time I did, it was like I was just setting myself back because now I got a hangover and I got to go hang out with my kid. And it's just like,
Right,
this is not worth it.
right.
So I think being the single mom in law school really did change a lot for me because I was actually kind of a rebellious spirit and I really didn't, like I said, I didn't follow the rules. But once I had a child, it was like, okay, this is not about you anymore. So I think it's just about my kids, you
Yeah.
know?
When those lessons continue to, or I mean, it changed who you were and who you are, right?
Yeah. How about you? You said you have some techniques you use. Like what is it? Is it like a mantra or like
Yeah, you can do hard things. Katie Delk, ringing in my ears. I think I learned from one of my cousins is a pretty successful entrepreneur, and we got to hang out with him. We about once a year or twice a year we see him, and he gave me a cool thing where he reads something inspirational every day. And I've incorporated that into my morning routine where I'm instead of just drinking coffee or just hanging out with my kids or my wife, but I'm starting the day from whether it's a book or an article or a podcast that I might be listening to, and it has to be inspiring, and so it's like I found things that inspire me of what's possible because I work from inspiration, and so if there's a task that I have to do and I'm not inspired to do it, I'm not going to do it. And
yeah.
I have to wait until I'm inspired to do that task. And I know that sounds super immature and I completely agree. And I wish I wasn't like that. I wish I could find a way to just push through and do them. But if I'm inspired, then I'm much more productive. And so that's one little technique that I found is keep an inspirational book around that keeps me dreaming and thinking about what's possible today.
That's possible. I love that. I think too that a lot of stuff that we're doing is like very deadline driven, right, in a law firm.
Oh yeah.
So, you know what I mean? It's like you don't really have a choice. That thing has to get done, or else you have malpractice. That's a big problem. But if it's not something like that, I think I do kind of struggle, like with what you said. And I also need a little inspiration too because um, I'm a dreamer too. And, I think you and I are very similar in that way. All the ideas you reminded me,
Right.
all these ideas and you're running a different kind of practice than most of your fellow CPA accountancy firms, right? So,
Mhm.
um, I run a very different practice than most other law firms that help businesses. So I think, yeah, the inspiration is a big one. I'm going to take some notes on that one because I feel like maybe I need to what I'm doing in the morning, drinking my coffee, like doom scrolling. I'm like, hey, get your clothes on. We got to go here. And I
Yeah.
need a little more inspo.
Yeah, I think to my cousin's credit, he's probably 60 something. So when he was working his hardest, he didn't have to worry about scrolling. In some ways we have more challenge to
Yeah.
overcome because that phone is sitting right there, like calling to us. So
Oh,
that's the
yeah.
way that he started out.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know we've got a time limit here. Are you good to go a few more minutes or
Yeah.
should we wrap up here? Okay. I want to get into a couple of things that we kind of talked about that we would talk about, and then we decided that we both just like to talk, so we would just talk. But I think you've got some stuff that is very valuable to share on some of these topics. So I do want to go into them a little bit before we close out today.
Let's
Really,
do it.
yeah, I think really what I would love for you to share is like behind the scenes decisions that you had to make that made your business stronger. Like maybe nobody saw it, but you made a pivot or something, and it really helped you grow your business.
Yes, and I think as I was thinking about this question, um, I have to do this regularly, and so I think building the habit of these behind the scene things, and the one that comes to mind for me is when it comes to flashy things versus character building things. I am more of a
Hmm.
flashy person. And so if there are great opportunities that look cool, I'm drawn to them. But I've learned over time to like say no to those sorts of things to go with like what builds character, like underneath, behind the scenes. And so, like following up with people when I have so we also have a coffee shop that we started 5 years ago. And so I've had to work through that. And there have been several instances where it would be easy for me in front of the team to call somebody out and make it feel good that I'm calling them out and they're in the wrong. And the harder thing is to bite the bullet and go talk to them later, where it's just one on one. It's a little more uncomfortable. But I think the team building side for me is always behind the scenes. And so I have to follow up with people. And I mean, this is more internal than external, but I
Hmm.
always
Hmm.
have to follow up with people one on one and take care of the relational side to make sure we are on the same team. We're aligned. Like they trust me, I trust you, um, and that never ends. So that's one not particular decision, but it's like this ongoing thing that I have to do behind the scenes that continues to make my company stronger.
I love that because, it's about the people. You talked about the people earlier. We say we have like a little framework we use too, right? And we have like these five pillars, but the third pillar is culture. And we talk about the people, and we're like, I like to say just because you can doesn't mean you should,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like, just because you can call that person out or, I don't know, show your authority, respect
Right.
my
Just
authority.
to
I mean,
flex in
like,
front of everyone
yeah,
to look
just
cool.
flexing.
Right.
Yeah. But it goes back to that immaturity thing, I think, too, that you said, which is like, hey, dude, it's kind of immature, right? Like, aren't you supposed to be the leader? But it makes sense. Like, I see why people would follow you because they're not afraid of you. They don't think you're going to, embarrass them or try to make them wrong, right? Like,
One, yeah, and I appreciate that. I think it goes back to what you said about humility too. And as entrepreneurs, I feel like sometimes we feel like we have to always look even the Instagram side, like we always have to look good. We always have to show our strong foot. And I think it's great for people to see the authentic, which is usually pitiful and pathetic. Like that's a lot of times more authentic than the rental jet or whatever. And you're right, they do learn how to trust you more through those sorts of difficult conversations and things than if they just think you're this perfect leader who doesn't show any sort of challenge. So yeah,
oh, yeah.
it's not my favorite, but it's definitely been helpful.
Yeah, sometimes, like, don't you feel like, well, maybe I shouldn't have shared that with them, or maybe I shouldn't have been that transparent. Are they going to want to follow me now? But I find that, like, the more authentic you are, the more people do build that trust with you that you are somebody worth following.
Yes, I agree.
All right. So, anything you want to close out with before we say goodbye to this great audience here?
Yeah, I want to tell people that they need to go do it. Whatever the thing is that you've been thinking, that you've been sitting on your hands, like time is short and your opportunity is now. Build a good team and go do the thing. Or if it's a decision that people have been putting off, I think again, time is short. Like don't put that decision off, don't put that conversation off. Like take advantage of today and go, grab it by the horns and do it. Be inspired to take the right action that you're waiting on. So that's the what I would leave with your audience. And I think we all grow when people do that kind of thing. And so like help us all be
Absolutely.
better by going for it.
Absolutely. It's the most selfless thing someone can do is to just be themselves and pursue their dreams.
Yeah, go for
Um,
it.
Absolutely love that, Patrick. You are always just such a great person to talk to. So I appreciate you coming on today. Um, tell us all, how can we find you? Where do you want us to go to find you? And we'll put all that in the show notes so folks can get there easily.
So our accounting company is Jaje Financial, which is Jajeh financial.com. And, if people need accounting help, or I also just have random conversations that you don't usually have to pay me for, I'm okay with exploratory discovery stuff. And then for our podcast that you mentioned, it's Business Cake, one word, and that's on Spotify and Apple. You can find me and my brother there and all the different things we're participating in.
I love it. And your show, it is also about entrepreneurship and pursuing dreams and values and all the things we've been talking about today. So definitely check out their show. Him and his brother are just absolutely incredible. They have great charisma. So I highly recommend it. Um, and I want to say to all of you listening today, thank you for taking time to come here to More Than Legal. And we will see you on our next episode. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to the show. Remember, stay sharp, stay curious, and stay tuned for our next episode. Bye for now.